Okay, we're going to be in Derech Hashem, the way of God, and we just entered into section 2, chapter 3. Section 2, chapter 3. We're going to be discussing probably the first, maybe the first and second paragraph, but for sure the first paragraph. Yes, page 109. 109. We have somebody on Facebook that actually takes the pictures of the pages and posts them with the video, so I really appreciate that. I can't remember who it is, but somebody on Facebook goes and posts, takes a picture of it and posts them up so people can read it. We've already discussed the fact that mankind task in this world is to exist, choose good, and to draw close to Hashem. The individual concepts of good and evil are extremely numerous. However, since the good consists of every possibility, worthy quality, while its opposite includes every bad quality, the elements of good and evil exist as opposites. Now, we've learned something that we've learned pretty valuable is that for every good thing, every element of light, there's darkness, there's evil, there's negativity, and it's all about balance. It's like the weights of a scale. If you we have what do you call it? What do they think? It's an airplane. It's the gyroscope. There we go. Thank you. And a gyroscope, to keep an aircraft going straight, or even a ship on water, gyroscope has two almost opposite balances in it, which keeps that thing on the straight and narrow. So even though we'd love to live in a world where everything's positive and nothing ever happens bad, we have to understand that this is a part of our life itself. The elements of good and evil exist as opposites. Thus, for example, pride is a bad trait, while its opposite is what? Humility is a good one. Mercy is a good quality, while callousness is opposite. The trait of being happy and satisfied with what one has is a good one, while the opposite is bad, of course, not being satisfied and being envious of other people. Someone asked me today if it's all right to be envious for someone who has attained another level of connection with God. Maybe you can tell that they've started studying more hours or whatever it may be, or they've moved to a community somewhere where they can be closer to a synagogue. And I said, absolutely, it's all right to be envious in that situation. Obviously, it's not good to be envious over somebody's 70-inch TV, okay? It's the totally different deal. In order for these qualities to exist, it was necessary that each individual be divided into different stations of life. Each of these stations is then a test of a particular individual, allowing all the bad qualities to exist while giving him the opportunity to strive against them and embrace good. So one of the things that we're going to find is that not only does every individual have the responsibility to connect to God and to choose to do good, there is a particular challenge to every one of us to do that. It's a challenge. And for every person, it's going to be a little different, but we all have to struggle with the same thing. Today, wanted to set up some time for marriage counseling. And he was saying how difficult his marriage was and how hard things were. And I'm listening to it and I'm thinking, if you only knew that your marriage is just as average as every other marriage. Sometimes you love each other, sometimes you would like to jump off a cliff, right? I'm just being honest, right? And so I feel horrible. I feel horrible to be so angry at my wife, and then to know my wife's angry at me, and I went home for lunch and we argued, that I left, and it's like, and I said, well, this is normal. As a matter of fact, what we find out from Rabbi Shalom Arush in the Garden of Peace and the Garden of Wisdom for women is that these things have in a relationship is what causes us to be refined, draw close to Hashem. We discover that when she's created in the garden, it says, calls her an helpmeet, but that's not really the proper word. What is the proper word? Do you know, Miss Betty? It's the opposite or the opposer. So that means that your spouse, your wife, is the opposite of you. So if you've been married very long and you go, well, my wife and I are nothing alike. Oh, that's the way it was designed, right? You're complete opposite. And if you ever try to marry somebody who is just like you, you know, it's funny when people get married when they're young, and one of the first things they say is like, oh, we have so much in common. We're just so much alike. Then like 15 years later, yeah, you feel, what was I thinking? We have nothing in common. So let's look at for sort of from example. If wealth and poverty did not exist, there would be no opportunity for people to demonstrate either generosity or indifference. Do you hear that? So if wealth and poverty did not exist, we wouldn't have the opportunity to generate to have generosity or indifference. The fact that wealth exists allows the rich to be tested by his advantage, determining whether he will be generous or indifferent to the poor who needs the help. For the poor, it's the same. The reason why that we have to have the poor, because if we had no one that was poor, no one would have the opportunity to give tzedakah or to give charity. No one would be challenged with compassion. You would just not be challenged with it at all. A rich man's wealth is a challenge in another way as well. It tests him to determine whether he will become haughty and proud or whether he will allow his wealth to sway him to a worldly causes of vanity and abandon the godly. We could also say for the poor person, there is the challenge to be so consumed with their poverty that they lose connection with God. So all of these challenges are there. I often have discussion with people about the concept of free will. I mean, why would God put these situations in our life that is most definitely could potentially stump your toe on and could cause a lot of difficulties? But these are here to demonstrate and to demonstrate our desire for Hashem. It's also put in our life to give us the opportunity to merit greatness. I had someone ask just the other day, have you ever felt like lukewarm spiritually, like you're not connected? And my response was, yeah, quite a bit, absolutely. And he said, well, I would never have expected you to say that. And I said, no, I mean, that's part of your walk with Hashem. I said, as a matter of fact, the sages of blessed memory say a person who continues to do mitzvah in the midst of feeling so disconnected from Hashem actually merits more in that mitzvah. There's more merit to one that struggles through doing the righteousness of God from the Torah. When you feel that way, there's greater merit because this person is not motivated by their emotions and how they feel. They're motivated out of their devotion to the Creator. Every man's predicament in life is therefore his challenge. Your problems are your problems, and my problems are my problems. The highest wisdom divided these challenges among the human race in a matter, degree, fitting, and proper to fulfill its profound plan. Thus, every individual has his own challenge in the battle with his evil inclination. This is his assignment and responsibility in the world, and within its framework, he must strive to success. His deeds are judged by God's attribute of justice with true precision, depending on the particular responsibility that was given to him. So let's examine this for a second. If God so designed an individual's life to have particular challenges that, say, another person doesn't have, and just because one does not have the same challenges that the other person have doesn't mean that they are not challenged in life, okay? So we all have our own particular challenges. But God put these challenges in your life. If we could only understand and realize that the challenges that are given to us are meant to actually refine something very particular in us. And if that challenge is there, then that is not a weakness on your behalf. I think a lot of times people struggle with this particular challenge I have in my life, it's a weakness. No, the Creator put that challenge in there for you to have to deal with. For example, one person may not have to deal with the particular challenge of a particular sin. One person doesn't have the challenge, doesn't bother them. When they go to judgment, they're not going to be received great merit because they didn't do that sin. Does that make sense? What merit is it if you never had deep within you unchecked lust, and that you kept it in balance your entire life and struggled with it every day of your life, and then somebody else who's never had that, it's not a big challenge, it's not a big merit to them. At the same time, everybody that has a struggle, it's particular to them for a very specific reason. It says this situation can be compared to a government where the king's many servants must obey his orders. All of them together must fulfill the task of running his government. And the king, therefore, gives each one a particular assignment so that between all of them, everything necessary is accomplished. Each of these servants then has the obligation to complete his particular assignment. He then rewarded by the king accordingly to how he functions in his particular area of responsibility. So, with that being said, we understand that God has given us all a particular thing that we have to work on, and it's our responsibility to deal with it. We can all gain advice and help from another person, but no one can serve your position. No one can do it for you. You have to do it yourself. The manner in which this is accomplished with regard to the entire human race is beyond our intellectual ability to grasp. The highest wisdom, however, determines and arranges these things in the best possible manner. Let's go to paragraph 2. As discussed earlier, everything in the physical world is derived and transmitted from one concept to another, level by level, from its essence to the spiritual plane to the physical universe. The details of each individual's challenge also have their primary root in the spiritual world. We have to remember and constantly keep ourselves reminded that whatever we see in the physical world has its root in the spiritual world, right? Whatever I'm having difficulties in the physical world, there is a spiritual root to the matter. Sometimes we can get caught up looking at the physical and forget that there is a spiritual component to this. Whether we're sick, whether it's financial situation, whether it's relationship, it doesn't matter. Everything has a spiritual connection to it. How it comes about that particular challenges are meted out to particular individuals depends on the spiritual root of each person. This distribution of challenges take into account the true nature of all parties and circumstances and is decided by the highest wisdom, whose decree is most fitting and proper. With Hashem being our king, our master of the universe, when he meted out our responsibilities and the difficulties and challenges that we will face individually, he's not going to give you a task that you are not capable of handling. He's not going to give you challenges in life that you cannot handle it. Now the problem is sometimes it feels like it's breaking our back. And it's very easy to feel like I'm not sure that I'll be able to fulfill this. But know this for sure. Because of Hashem's divine justice and loving kindness and compassion, he's not giving you something that you cannot pass the test on. He's not giving you something that you can't fulfill and complete the task and be able to accomplish great merit in it. The details of each individual has their primary spiritual root. Let's go on down. This distribution of challenges takes into account the true nature of all parties and circumstances and decided by the highest wisdom whose decrees are fitting and proper. According to the principles that were discussed earlier, all this should be clear. Number 3, let's go to paragraph 3. According to this basic principle, all the gratification and suffering of this world exist as a challenge to man. I'm going to repeat this again. The basic principle, all gratification and sufferings in this world exist as a challenge for man. The nature of each particular challenge is what the highest wisdom determines to be the test for each particular individual. Right now we're entering into a tense political season in which elections are going to be held, and people are being divided amongst party lines, whether you're conservative, liberal, whatever, Republican, Democrat. And it's easy to sort of get caught up in the politics of things, and especially when you look on Facebook and see people post, your blood can boil sometimes. But it's really important for us to keep our head where it's supposed to be, and that is our relationship with God. Keeping our head where it's supposed to be, knowing that Geulah, redemption, is going to come. And we're very close to redemption. And so whatever is going to happen on the political front is designed by the Creator to bring about redemption. So as negative as it might seem to have a certain person in office that you don't want in office, it's really out of your control. Now you can vote. Okay, we would like to think our vote counts. But I'm telling you, the powers that be are working on behest of the Creator of the universe. That's hard for us to kind of put our emunah, our faith, and say, okay, God, it's all in your hands. Doesn't mean I won't vote, doesn't mean I won't have a political opinion, but for sure, we've got to remember all of the struggles of man, all of the gratifications and all of the difficulties are all designed for one thing, and that is to bring us each to a level of redemption. Let's go to paragraph 4. There is, however, another reason for what happens to an individual in this world, based on justice and recompense. The highest judge decreed that each individual's deeds themselves result in God helping them, simplifying his task of achieving perfection and protecting him from the possible stumbling blocks. This is what is meant when it says in 1 Samuel 2:9, God guards the feet of the pious ones. So with that being said, you're not left alone to have to fight these battles, to go through these struggles, to deal with the temptation, to recover from your failure. He will guard your steps. He will make sure that you're not going to fail in your task. Even with regard to this, however, there are many decrees, true judgments may determine that God should help one individual just a little because of his previous deeds. So, is it possible that God can help one person and not help another? Right. What would be the motivation or the thing behind Hashem withholding help for one individual versus another? Do what? I can't hear you.
Me?
Yes. What'd you say?
Because it's not best for that person.
Right.
He knows what's best for all.
Right. So he knows what's best for all of us. If somebody is completely rebellious, I think that we're having this conversation Sunday night. I believe we're talking about reward and punishment, and that why is it that some people, when judgment will come, Russia, the evil people, they will be dispatched, completely dispatched. There will be no opportunity for tshuva for them. None. They'll be completely done away with. How is it and why is it that there'll be some shown no mercy, like in the Torah portion last week, right? The portion was Og and King Sihon. God says, don't show them any mercy, destroy them all, kill everything, and I think they could keep the animals. Did they keep the animals, I think, right? Keep the animals alive. And you think, wow, that's pretty cold stuff. But why? It says he hardened these heart of these kings like Pharaoh. Meaning, and we know about Pharaoh that God just merely gave him the opportunity to do what he was already doing. He pushed the envelope for him, right? Pushed the envelope. And I said that there are people that when they go to Gehinnom, hell, they will be the people that won't do tshuva but give God the middle finger. You understand what I'm saying? And those people will be dispatched because there's no chance of tshuva for them. None. They won't do tshuva. It's not that God is withholding tshuva. It's that they're not capable of doing it. So therefore, if you're not capable, you're done away with. That's pretty heavy thing. A person who wants to have God protect them, then they work on their piety, they work on their connection with Hashem, they work earnestly to garner the compassion of the Creator of the universe. Even with regard to this, however, there are many decrees. True judgment may determine that God should help one individual just a little because of his previous deeds. The judgment of another individual may be that he should be helped more than his attainment of perfection be made much easier. Still another may be worthy of the greatest possible help. And the same is true in the opposite case. Strict justice may require that an individual not be given any divine help at all. But at the same time, the attainment of perfection is not made any more difficult for him. So it says if God doesn't give divine protection, it doesn't mean that they are not capable of attaining that level of perfection. In the case of another individual, the judgment may be that many barriers be placed in his path, making him need much effort and struggle to attain perfection. Yet another person may be so wicked that all paths are closed off for him, so that he is totally cast aside by his wickedness. Thinking of athletes, how they seem to effortlessly do the things that they do. Especially with the Olympics, we watch them, it's like, man, look how they make it look so easy. But if you really knew their life from the time they were probably, 10, 11 years old, they were involved in that particular sports or a variety of sports and beat their bodies up and injured themselves. And there are some people, though, that just have an athletic build. They just have a body built for running or jumping or whatever it may be. That's how they've been designed, while other people are not designed that way. As much as I would love to be a champion power lifter or athletic individual, I don't have that in me. With that being said, it's the same thing spiritually about individuals. Let's take this last part, let's go to the next section. It says, this is true of the wicked individual. It is possible that success be granted to him, opening the way of destruction through which he will ultimately be cast aside. It is possible, however, that he be decreed to suffer, preventing him from fulfilling his evil intentions. Meaning a person who's completely wicked, God could say, okay, knock yourself out. Go for it. Enjoy your life. And then there are others, he puts obstacles in their way and complete destruction so that at some level they're not able to do any more wicked. At some point would want to change their ways. This often happens when the highest ruler decrees that for various reasons certain wicked acts not be accomplished. It is with regard to such situation that David HaMelech says in Psalm 140 verse 9, grant not, O God, the desires of the wicked, allow them not their evil plans. We'll close with that particular section. I tell you what, let's go on. Let's finish this. God does all this with unimaginable wisdom, accomplishing everything that is appropriate for the benefit of his handiwork. He knows the situation of each individual according to his truest nature and judges everyone accordingly. Here's the famous line. You ready? Why me? Right? Why me? Now, I've heard it said by a wonderful rabbi of our age, that's some chutzpah, to look at the Creator in the face and say, why me? Especially after reading this. He's like the master. He's the conductor. He's chosen you. He's chosen your circumstance, your situation, and for you to go, why me? Now, There's nothing wrong with asking why me, maybe for some clarity, but to say why me thinking it's better that Horatio had the problem, not me. That's the wrong attitude in life. So there's nothing wrong with going, you know what, why am I having to go through this? What have I done? What do I need to do to change and to make those changes? Thus, for example, one who is in the state of prosperity and neglects his obligation is judged much more harshly than one who is in a distressed state and is prevented from living up to the standard by pressure confronting him. God judges each individual deed according to its circumstances. However, whether it is accidental or purposeful, whether it is forced or willful, for God knows the truth of all things, whether they be thoughts or deeds, and He judges them according to their true nature. When we examine ourselves before the Creator and we stand in judgment, we will be given all the tools that we are supposed to have had. And if for some reason you were not able to obtain some special level that you thought that you wanted to obtain, at some point, and I know this sounds pretty tough, I mentioned this to Rabbi Clofin the other day, at some point, if you were not given the tools to do it, then that was really Hashem's problem. Do you understand? If you weren't given the tools to do it, for example, let's say that I don't have the cognitive ability to obtain a lot of Torah. There are people out there that they can read and they just can't obtain it. That is Hashem's problem. You do what you can do. You do what you can do. And then once you've done that, Hashem's not going to judge you based on, He's not going to look at the person who lacks cognitive ability to obtain a lot of Torah and compare you to a great Chacham, an expert in Torah. That'd be unjust. However, a person with a photographic memory that can look through a book and boom, they can contain and understand everything, and yet they don't do anything but fill their mind full of filth. Do you think that He's going to be giving that individual a break? No, I don't think so. He's going to have judgment. That concludes the shiur. Who else? Questions? Comments?